All right, so folks, we're gonna actually get right into it. Let's actually, first of all, let's actually talk about barbecue and chili because I'm actually really want to talk about that. So a lot of killers use barbecue and chili. I think the pick rate of it is actually really super high. But the thing is though that I come to find out is that sometimes it's not as useful as I think it is, right? Since I am a killer main, but barbecue and chili, I know a lot of people put it in S tier, but I'm actually going to put it in A tier only because a way that the survivors are played, how they play sometimes is really heavily dependent if this perk is going to give you a lot of value or really not much value at all. So barbecue and chili, I get it. It's a great perk. It really is. But I found situations where survivors are just kind of like hurtling around to try to get the save off the hook. And I don't know what to do about that because it's so crazy about survivors just going in, trying to actually get this save off the hook, and barbecue chili isn't active. Maybe that technically does bring value, I guess, because now you know that survivors are close by. So I guess that does bring value. But I mean, I say it's good. I think it's literally, I'm gonna put it in A tier. It's really like on the edge of putting it S, and I can completely understand if someone wants to put it in S tier, for example. I can completely understand. Right, let's actually go over all the perks that I 100% know, which is that haunted grounds, hex ruin, batteries, discordant, and I believe let's actually do that one, devour hope, nurse's calling. Actually don't really know that one. Make your choice, and pop goes the weasel. We're gonna actually do pop goes the weasel next. Okay, all right, because I want to actually get all the perks that I 100% know, because there's so many perks in this game, and I don't want to do what I did last time with survivors where I messed up and I actually thought one perk did the completely other thing, but it doesn't. It did a completely opposite thing. So haunted grounds. I think, to be honest with you, it's super like, first of all, it's situational. That's number one. Number two is that you got to have survivors that are actually going to be cleansing totems, right? Because if they don't actually know, so the only way to partner that up is that you have to partner haunted grounds with hex rune, because maybe you can actually put in their head that there's something for survivors to look for. So haunted grounds, I think it is just, I don't know, I think it's not that great of a perk. I want to put it in D, but I think it deserves to be on C, at least towards the end of C, like literally all the way back here, only because like some matches you're not even getting any value from it. But when you do get value from it, because it lasts for a whole minute, there is, like, I remember, I swear to God, like, you know, there was one match that I had where I was playing Freddy Cougar and someone cleansed haunted grounds and I downed all the survivors within the minute. So it could be an absolute win. But think about that though. Even though I got that, and maybe some of you guys got that, it's so rare that for that to happen. And plus, survivors can actually just go and hide anyways, and hide in lockers or something. So you might not even get any value from it. And plus, it's a hex perk. And I don't even think this deserves to be in a hex perk, really, to be honest. I wish there was just something else. You know, I don't know. Or honestly, just get rid of the perk in the game, to be honest with you. But I'm going to put it in C. I'm going to be a little generous by it because maybe you can get some value from it if you partner that up with something else, right? We're going to actually talk about Hex Ruin. Hex Ruin is honestly a completely mid perk right now, but I think that's fine, actually. It used to be a god tier perk. It used to be an S tier. Me and Morgan, we used to actually always, every game was always Hex Ruin, Hex Ruin, Hex Ruin, and it used to be an S tier perk. But right now, I would like to safely say it's a B tier perk now. It is absolutely mid, but it's actually good. All it does now is that if you don't like kicking gens and you like getting them off the gens, because I'm that type of person, I don't really like kicking gens. You can actually get those survivors off those generators and they can be regressing, so that way you can just like start the chase immediately. So Hex Ruin isn't actually really bad. I think it's actually perfectly balanced. I think it's perfectly where it's supposed to be at right now. And not only that, like, the fact too is it is a Hex Ruin too, so people can be looking for that Hex Ruin, maybe to actually cleanse it. So it, you know, maybe it saves you a little bit of time. But I think it's a B tier perk. Lethal Pursuer. I think Lethal Pursuer is actually an S tier perk. And the reason why it's an S tier perk, it depends on what killer you're facing, of course. But if you have Lethal Pursuer, you can actually immediately get into a chase. So, if you're a killer that doesn't need any setup, like Trapper, Lethal Pursuer, I think it personally is useless because you need to set up all your traps. You need to put it all in order, right? But let's say, for an example, if you're like Michael Myers or even Ghostface or someone, right, that wants to just get into a chase immediately, or even Springtrap to get in a chase immediately, right? Lethal Pursuer is quite helpful, and not only that, it does partner up with Barbecue and Chili, so because you actually get 2 additional seconds of seeing all the survivors' auras, right? So Lethal Pursuer, seeing auras at the start of the match for, I think it was like 7 seconds or something, right, is actually quite helpful. You get in that chase immediately, start putting pressure on the survivors, and there you go. Very simple. Batteries included. So batteries included, when generators are completed, you get a 5% haste. I think personally, at first, I thought this perk was really, really good, but the more I keep using it, the more I realize that it's not that great of a perk that I think it is. I think, honestly, it's a solid B tier perk. I think towards the end game it does help out, especially if you partner that up with Noed. But the perk on its own right now is that it's not as helpful as you think it is. It's not that helpful. If you're doing a haste build, maybe perhaps you can actually be running this perk. I think it's perfectly balanced. I think it's a straight up B tier. Discordants. So discordants, I believe this one is when 2 survivors are on a generator. That generator is in yellow. I think this perk right here is actually really, really good if you want more information on the field. So if you want more information on the field, this is a great perk for you to have. You can have this perk and actually completely be understanding where the survivor's at, putting pressure on them. Very simple perk. I'm gonna actually put it in A tier because I do like how it combats actually, survivors who are using Prove Thyself. So this perk right here is good, because chances are survivors are going to be working on together. It gives you information. Devourer of Hope. I think Devourer of Hope is a great perk, especially if you get a good Hex Totem spawn. Now, I think personally this perk is an S tier. I think it's a really great hex, especially if you actually fulfill all the requirements. And if you fulfill all the requirements, everyone becomes exposed. And when they're all exposed, it's easier to take them out. So they have to stop working on gens, otherwise they are going to, die. So because that's so much pressure on them now in that case. Nurse's Calling. Nurse's Calling I don't think is as helpful as I think it is now. I know people are probably going to make the case that Nurse's Calling is really great because, you can actually see survivors healing. I feel like you can actually understand, you can kind of get an idea where survivors are healing though. For an example, like I feel like you still get value from it, but not that much value. Like I feel like you can get an understanding where survivors are healing. Like if a survivor unhooked a survivor, he's probably healing them under hook. But during that time, you're probably in a chase with another survivor, or if you're running back to it because you just got a notification and you probably see them in a distance with your own eyes. I think Nurse's Calling is still a great perk. I just don't think it's the best perk right there. I think because of that, I'm actually gonna put it in C tier. Make Your Choice. So Make Your Choice is a really good perk, but you have to be at distance. I think this perk really works well if you're with a character that actually teleports away, so that way you immediately get Make Your Choice. So you can actually hypothetically, for Springtrap for example, you can teleport away and then someone saves a survivor, you can teleport back, and then survivors don't usually expect it, and you have Make Your Choice and you can just actually down the survivor that is actually at full health. So because of that, I think B tier for him. I think it's very solid. Pop Goes the Weasel. Every time you hook a survivor, you actually get to kick a generator and it will lose 20% of progress. I think Pop Goes the Weasel is an S tier perk. Very good because you're obviously going to be hooking survivors. I think it's going to help you out. All right, so Whispers. So Whispers is actually pretty all right if you want to actually locate survivors. You just have to keep looking at that perk icon. I think Whispers is honestly a solid B tier. Really not much to talk about because you're just looking at the perk icon, and if it lights up, that means you're actually heading to the correct direction where survivors are at. I think it's a solid B. Scourge the Hook. I think Scourge the Hook is actually an A tier, to be honest with you. It's a high A tier. So you actually can hook a survivor if the hook is glowing white, and if you hook that survivor, the most progressed generator will lose 20%. And if you actually compare that with Pop Goes the Weasel and go to that generator, it loses 40%. So if you're actually right there towards the end game where all generators are close to each other, you could actually hypothetically have a generator lose 40%. But that being said, you can only use it up to 4 times, which is the reason why it's on A tier. Because you're only using it 4 times. It's not like Pop Goes the Weasel where you're actually can be able to use it like a lot of times. You're only using it 4, and they have to be, I think all survivors have to be hooked, if I'm correct. If not, then you're only using 4 times with the 4 tokens. I think it's okay. I think it's an A tier though. It's definitely an A tier. So Blood Warden is good if you really want an in-game perk. It's a great perk. It blocks all the exit gates off. It gives you a second chance to actually hit the survivors and get them down. And also you can actually run like a complete build where you're just blocking nothing but end games. I think that's actually kind of fun. But I actually think it's a solid B tier though, because it can easily just walk away, hide somewhere else, wait for the timer to go down, so they can actually exit out. Corrupt Intervention is an S tier perk in my opinion. If you actually have Corrupt Intervention and Lethal Pursuer or some type of builds where you actually just want to get into a chase immediately, because now there's generators that are closed off, so that's number 1, so it buys you more time, and number 2 is that you're actually in a chase now, so now you can down a survivor and you have some time. I think it's an S tier perk. Actually, you know what, might put it in A. I'm gonna put it in A, because like there are some situations that you could be in a chase for a survivor and you're not ending it very fast. So in that case, you could be using the whole duration of the perk, and then it just ends up really becoming useless. Noed, aka No One Escapes Death. I think Noed is actually a great perk. I think it's wonderful. I think it's an S tier perk. I know survivors hate it, but Noed is a really, really solid perk that you should actually bring with you if you are maybe not so good at the game, or maybe you're actually just want to get a last attempt to actually get the survivors. I think Noed is really good, especially if you partner that up with Blood Warden right here. Very good, because you can block the exit gates. Yeah, Noed is actually really great for newcomers. Deadlock. I think Deadlock is pretty good too. I think it's actually maybe an A tier right there, perhaps. So what Deadlock does is that the most progressed generator actually gets blocked off for 20 seconds or 30 seconds maybe. And the generator is highlighted in yellow aura. So if you actually are really lost, don't know where to go, you can actually head to that generator that's close to being done, and you can actually probably find a survivor near there. So Deadlock is pretty good, but it's not S tier though. It is an A tier. I think it's right there. It's pretty good though. Bamboozle is actually good if you want to actually close off those loops. I'm actually going to put that in A tier as well. I'm actually going to put that right here. I'm actually going to put Corrupt Intervention maybe right here towards the end, and Barbecue Chili kind of right here too, because I still think Barbecue Chili is pretty solid. But Bamboozle is good if you actually want to close off the T and L shape. Basically, it's a very good place for survivors to loop you in, and if you want to do that, you can actually go over a window, close it off for a survivor to be forced to go somewhere else, or actually close off the shack, which is another powerful looping spot. Or in Stranger Things map, there is that in the lab in the lab area, that is a powerful looping spot too, so a survivor can actually keep on looping the killer there. So the Bamboozle is very good and very helpful. I think personally, if you're really annoyed at survivors using windows, And especially right now too, you have Windows of Opportunity, which is really powerful perk right now for the survivors. Windows of Opportunity is super, super powerful. So Bamboozle would kind of counter that a bit. Maybe not for the pallets, but for the windows it will. Distressing. So distressing actually increases your terror radius. I think this doesn't really apply for all perks. I'm actually gonna not all perks. I mean all killers. I think it's gonna be a C tier because there's some situations maybe you want your terror radius to increase. I don't think it's actually worse than Haunted Grounds though. Neither Nurse's Calling. Because so distressing increases your terror radius by 30%. It's good if you're actually doing a build with it. Yes, if you want to do a build with it, absolutely. But the perk on its own, it's not that great. So that's why I'm going to rank it at C. Because you can get value out of it, but you kind of have to make a build with it. You kind of need to take up 2 perk slots to make a build with it, because in my opinion there's no reason to increase your terror radius just alone if you're not getting any some type of benefit for it, right? If you don't have any type of benefit for it, there's no reason to increase it. All right, so Insidious. This has to be the worst perk in the game, and there is no reason to be running it. There is no reason. I think there's only very few reasons for you to run it. Basically, if you are standing still for 3 seconds, you will become actually your terror radius will become removed. But you have to stand for 3 seconds. So the best way to probably use this perk, the only way that I found the best way to use this perk is to actually, to be honest with you, is to camp. But the big issue with that now is that if you're camping, a survivor will actually can unhook, get them off hook. I talked about it before. I fully believe that this is kind of, the developers do cater to survivors a bit, because now this perk is completely useless unless they actually rework it. It is very, very bad. I would not recommend actually to use that perk. Surge is a great perk. Basically, if you down a survivor with an M1. If you down a survivor with an M1, all generators within 32 meters, I believe, get an 8% regression. It's very solid, very mid perk, very solid. It's not a bad perk at all. I don't know the name of this one. I forgot what the name is, but basically you actually get a cooldown off of miss attacks by 30%. Once again, super, super solid. But there's a reason why I'm actually going to do this. So I'm actually going to put it all the way end of B tier, because there's actually another perk in there that is actually better than that. There is another perk that is better than that. Because if you actually are really, if you really care about actually if you're missing your attacks or you're hitting your attacks and you actually just want to be faster, there's another perk that actually would be better for that. So yeah, Thrilling Tremors is okay. I think it's a solid B tier perk. I think it's all right. The Clown perk, but basically it would be having a hard time healing. Once again, it's gonna be a C tier because you're gonna need this one, Distressing, to really help out this one, right? So terror radius, to actually have survivors actually stop from taking longer to heal. I think that's actually a great perk. It's pretty good. And Distressing is also a good perk too. They just have to be in C because they have to kind of work within one another. Brutal Strength. I think Brutal Strength is actually in high end tier, probably low end A tier, I should say. So it breaks pallets faster, and if you actually want to remove those pallets, or you get survivors that are tossing pallets left and right, you can totally use that perk and actually break the pallets so that way they don't have that many resources. Super simple perk. Blood Favor. I think Blood Favor is an S tier perk because you actually get blocked. You block the pallets, and survivors don't know that until it's too late. So then they have to stop the game to actually try to go look for a hex. I think Blood Favor is incredibly, incredibly powerful. Machine Learning. So Machine Learning, what it is basically when you are actually hitting a generator, and if that generator becomes completed, you become undetectable for 1 minute, and you actually become have 8% haste. This is a solid B tier, to be honest, maybe a low end B tier, because in my eyes, I mean, you can get value from it towards the early game, or even mid game, but for you to get value from it is that you have to have survivors complete a generator, which is, to me, it's like, yeah, I guess so. You know, I think it's B. You know, you can make a case to move it up if you really want to. You can move it up. You know, you can move Hex Ruin around here too, but I think Hex Ruin is a solid B. I think it's still pretty good. But in this case right now, I'm actually gonna move this one a little bit further back. I'm just here. I think machine learning is good. It's just that sometimes, in my personal experience, you might not get value from it because you got a gen that's being worked on, and you're just like, oh man, like it's not there, man. It's very dependable on survivors. Yeah. Okay, so we're on the same page on that one. Very same page on that. So Tinkerer, and we also have this actually to review the alien one because I think the alien one is actually good. So a lot of people have been using this perk because when you hit a survivor, you get a 5% haste, and especially now the whole type of thing we got going on now with strong haste builds. But it removes bloodlust. It removes bloodlust. I think it's a solid B too. Maybe around this area, it's a solid B. It's still a great perk though. Doesn't mean it's a bad perk. It's just that you might need the bloodlust if a survivor is really good at looping you, because now you don't have any bloodlust to have. So I think it's a solid B. I think it's well balanced if you really want to play that way. It's balanced pretty well. Save the best for last is way better in my opinion comparing to this perk, and the only reason why is because you actually get more recovery when you actually miss an attack. So if you miss an attack, you actually get more recovery than actually just 30%. I think because of that, I actually might rank it actually a low A tier. If you really want to do a build that's like makes you super fast, so you hit a survivor and you're not chasing after your obsession, I think you can actually get a lot of value from it. Even if you hit the survivor like one time, it's still pretty good. I think it's a great perk. I think it's pretty good. Solid A. Sure, so the Beasts of Prey, when you gain Bloodlust, gain undetectable for 40 seconds. This is the worst perk, and you should not be running this perk. That is a solid D tier. Matter of fact, yeah, I think it's actually better than this one. This is actually really, really terrible because if you're gaining bloodlust, you're already losing a lot because that means the survivor's gaining up on you too much. And terror radios are just useless because now on the left side, now all survivors know that someone's being chased. So that's number one. It does hide in your red light, like I said, but how I just rebutted that argument is pretty much you can easily just turn around and hide your red light from yourself. You can just do that. So I think personally, like, it's not that great perk. Just probably don't use that perk at all. It is not good at all in my opinion. I want to just say right now that Remember Me actually isn't the one that blocks off the switches. It just makes the survivor take longer to do the switches. Sorry about that, but it actually still ranks at B tier, just to let everybody know. It's good too if you actually want to use Blood Warden with it. So Remember Me, basically it blocks off the switches for about a few seconds. I don't know how long it is, but it blocks off the switches for a few seconds. I think it's a solid B tier as well. It kind of goes right next to each other because honestly, you know, you can run both of them, and I feel like it'd be, you know, you can get a lot of value from it. Sloppy Butcher though, so Sloppy Butcher, if you hit a survivor, it actually makes the healing process take longer. I think Sloppy Butcher is S tier with that because you can actually hit survivors and it takes them longer time to heal. If you're playing a character like a killer that absolutely wants to keep them down to one level, like if you're playing an M1 killer, maybe Sloppy Butcher would actually help you out, and it actually rebuttals Jill's Valentine's perk, where basically if you get off the hook and then you're trying to heal survivor, because it does take a few more extra seconds. Now I know those are just a few extra seconds, but those few extra seconds can save you some time to actually probably hit the survivor. Play with your food. Play with your food has to be a C tier for me because there is no reason why you want to be leaving the survivor. Now the reason why it's a C tier, right, is because actually, it's not enough a good reason why, but I'm going to still say it anyways. if you are playing as Wraith, and like I talked about it before, you can actually hit the bell and end the chase. And once you end the chase, you get a token of play with your food. And if you're getting a token of play with your food, you can actually max out the 3 tokens, and now you're like a speed demon, right? And the amount of haste in this game is crazy, right? So because of that, I think play with your food, you're going to get more value from it. I think you're going to actually probably get right here. And obviously, maybe, you know, maybe you are losing the obsession, and maybe there you go. You can get a 5% token with it. It's just that I wouldn't run it with any other killer besides, honestly, Legion. I mean, not Legion, sorry, Wraith. It's the only killer I could probably run play with your food with and actually get like the utmost value with it. I forgot what Tinkerer does. Yeah, okay. Whenever your generous repair 70% of triggers. Okay, so I think this perk right here it's an A tier. Probably low end A tier. Lightborn is a perk where people will say that it's an S tier. I don't think it's an S tier. I think it is a solid B tier. Now I get it. If you're getting a bully squad and you're looking at it beforehand, absolutely. I mean, maybe you could be running Lightborn on S tier because you have a bully squad that's actually using flashlights, and now flashlights are being meaningless now. But if it is a bully squad, they have other methods. I mean, I've seen survivors using the locker perks to actually stun the killers. I've seen that. It's a good perk. It's well balanced, but I don't think it is one of the greatest perks in the whole wide world. I think it's a very balanced perk. Yeah, you could just look up or down. Absolutely. So that's another thing too. So thank you for Sky. If you pick up a survivor and someone is trying to flash you too, you can always look up or look down. Look somewhere, right? You don't necessarily have to use Lightborn. There is very rare occasions, like I'm saying though, that you get a bully squad. So Huntress Lullaby is a hex perk. I think honestly Huntress Lullaby is actually a solid B too. Kind of right neck and neck with Hex Ruin in my opinion. They're kind of okay. They're really good. They're both actually gen regression perks. Both perks where survivors have to stop and actually look for a hex totem. I think they're both solid perks. Once again, very solid. You're gonna see that this B tier list is actually gonna be filled up, and I think like there's only very few perks where I find really bad. Because there's so much, you know, variables at play. Like you can definitely run builds with them, but Lullaby is good. I think might be Hex Rune is a tiny bit better. I might. So Agitation is pretty good if you absolutely want a survivor to go to a certain location. If you want a survivor to go to the basement, for example, right? If you want them to go to the basement, then I think Agitation is a great perk because you get that 18% haste. Where did I put it at? Okay, I think it's honestly maybe in either an S tier or an A tier, because if you really want to get that agitated, get them on that basement, or get them to, because I think personally you're using Agitation to probably put them in the basement, to be honest with you. Or if hypothetically survivors are actually getting the hook and they're breaking the hook, so where you have to turn around to actually hook them to a different location. Yes, Agitation would completely counteract that. I think Agitation is a great perk. Great. Hex Undying. This is also a good perk if you absolutely want to keep your Hex Ruins alive. I think, so basically if someone is actually cleansing a Hex Totem, it actually would give your Hex Totem another life for them to stay alive longer. So I would personally say it is an A tier, because you're keeping your hex perks alive. Alright, Shadowborn. When blinded by any means, gain 10% haste for 10 seconds. I'm gonna be honest with you. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I feel like it might be a C tier. I don't think it's one of the worst perks. I think it's all the way back here. I think it has to be right next to Haunted Grounds, to be honest with you. Because if you're blind, I mean, you're blind. Easy D. I feel like you can get some value from it. I feel like it's not hurting you personally. It's for sure teeter-tottering from being at D to being at C. It's for sure doing that. I'll put it at D. I'll put it at D. Script. We'll put it at D because honestly, I think it's kind of silly for it. But yeah, let me look at Knockout though, Because I see knockout being there, and I'm just not raking it because I don't really know. When a survivor drops a pallet, if they move a 6 meter away from it within a 6... Oh, okay, yeah. I like the original knockout. I don't know why they changed it. I think personally, like, this type of knockout, I think it's not that cool, and I don't think it's that good. Maybe call me biased here, but I think it's actually a solid C tier. I like the original knockout better, personally, because I felt like you can be slugging people. But knockout, though, knockout was so disappointing. I don't like how knockout is. I like the original, so I'm going to put it as C tier with knockout. Okay, so monitor abuse, I think it's a great perk. That is a solid B tier. So basically, when you're in a chase, it increases your terror radius, but if you're not in a chase, it lowers your terror radius, right? So it actually depends on what type of perk, like what you're using it for. So if you actually want to do, for example, like if you want to do Wesker with distressing and do a whole terror radius build and have monitor abuse, absolutely, you can make it work where now you can actually, survivors can't do nothing because the terror radius is so freaking high up there, right? But let's say now, for example, you want to be more of a stealthy killer, maybe even spring trap hypothetically, where you can lower down your terror radius even further. I can see it being worked. I think B tier is actually where it's at because you can actually get the best of both worlds. Actually even having a super high terror radius or super low terror radius. I think that you can get the best of both worlds. Yeah. All right, so plaything I think is really good because everybody would be blinded. The thing that I love doing, right, is to have a build that is actually makes everyone so blinded with everything that they don't realize it. By cleansing totems doesn't matter because you're actually still blinded, right? And if you want to do a complete stealth build, I think this is actually a great perk, Hex Plaything. I don't think it's an A tier, unfortunately. I think it's still a B tier. I think it's still quite solid. But you can actually, I feel like it's actually a high B tier personally. It's still a great perk if you really want to run it. It's good. It's very good. I think this perk right here, which is actually, I forgot what the name is. Let me actually look up the name because I actually don't like that perk. I thought originally I liked it, but I don't like it, and it needs to be said. I don't like this perk. If I can find it. Oh, it's actually right here. Fugitive Chase. So when you actually become obsessed with one survivor, you actually hook them, you get a 10% haze, and you get undetectable, but only for 18 seconds. It sounds good on paper, and it is. It's a C tier for sure. The thing is, though, is that I personally, I feel like the undetectable effect doesn't really do crap for me. It doesn't really help out as much. And the 10% haze is good if you want to actually, if there's a generator far away and you hook that survivor, and if you have barbecue and chili, you can actually start heading over there quickly. But the thing is, in my eyes, personally, I hate that it lasts only for a few seconds. I wish it lasted for like 30 seconds or so, maybe even 20, maybe an extra 4 seconds, because I feel like it's not, I don't really get that much use out of it, and especially it's only for obsession. And sometimes, like, I will be hooking the obsession, maybe the last one, or maybe I hooked them in the first one. So you might need to have perks that actually really help you out with it. I'm actually going to move it to a high C tier, to be honest with you, because there are perks that can help us out, where you can keep on switching the obsession, which, yeah, that is pretty good. But I still think it's going to be a high C tier. I think I remember this perk, but I need to look at it. It's basically like items drop, right, when you hit a survivor. Franklin's Demise. Franklin's Demise is actually a okay perk. It actually, if I remember, hold on, let me remember, it reveals items on the ground. Yeah, so basically it drops items. If a survivor has items, it drops them. It's a C tier. Right, there it is. When survivor interacts with the exit gate switch, you receive a loud noise notification. The entity then blocks both exit gate switches for 12 seconds, plus an additional 12 seconds for each token in your possession, right? So, I think this No Way Out is actually a great perk. I actually will put it in S tier, but I don't think it's completely all the way up there. Matter of fact, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to switch this around a little bit because Lethal Pursuer is good. I think No Wood is actually up there too. Devourer Hope is up there. Lethal Pursuer is up there. These perks are really good. All of them right here. So No Way Out is actually a great perk if you actually, like I said, if you want a second attempt, you can totally run a build that is completely an end game build, and I think that would be so freaking fun to do. So you can absolutely do that, and then survivors will have no choice to actually have to battle with you. And then if you really want to be scummy, I think you can also have remember me if you really want to do that and be scummy on that, for where it takes longer for you to actually open up the door switch, and then you have no ed. It could be absolutely something you could do. So it's amazing with that. I think it gives you a second chance to actually get survivors and keep them on their toes. I think it's a great perk to keep them in. Each time a survivor is hooked for the first time, gain a token when moving 16 meters. This is the Grim Embrace away from the hook. All generators are blocked for 10 seconds. Upon reaching 4 tokens, when moving 16 meters away from the hook, the entity is instead blocks all generators for 40 seconds. The obsession auras are revealed to you for 6 seconds, then the Grim Embrace deactivates. The killer can be only obsessed with one survivor. I think Grim Embrace is honestly a great perk, and that's why I'm actually going to put it in S tier. I think it's actually a great perk. If you absolutely love blocking generators, you can totally, honestly, the more I think about it, I bet you can actually do a whole like build of just blocking generators. Grim Embrace is actually a really good perk. It's not that bad of a perk. And also this perk right here is also a, hold on, let me read that one more time with that one. And then overrun. When a survivor starts using an item within 32 meters of you, they gain exhaustion for 15 seconds. When a survivor within 32 meters of you gains exhausted, you see the closest exhausted survivor aura for 4 seconds. This perk has a 25-second cooldown. I think Overwhelming Presence is not a bad perk. I think it's actually, to be honest with you, it might be honestly an A tier for me in my eyes. And the night perk also, which we will talk about, but Overwhelming Presence, I think it's an A tier in my eyes, maybe low end A tier. But the night perk, where basically if you kick a generator and there's going to be survivors that are hiding close to those generators, I feel like you're getting a lot of value from that. So I'm actually going to put that in A as well, so you can actually get value, because there's survivors that love to hide right next to the generators that you're trying to complete. Dragon's Grip. So Dragon's Grip is okay. I think it's a very balanced perk. Like I said, it's a B tier. So Dragon's Grip, basically when you kick a generator, the generator becomes this effect for about 30 seconds, and if a survivor is working on that generator, they actually will get exposed, right? So if they get exposed, you can actually turn around, actually down them. But the thing is, though, like I said, I think it's a B tier. Still a good perk, though. Still great. Grip Strength. Grip Strength is actually a great perk, too, if you actually want to combine it over with the Agitation. If you really want to hold on to the survivor and make them last longer, you can actually do that. You can actually do an S tier for this one. But that being said, I'm actually going to put it in A tier. Yeah, I'm going to put it in A tier because honestly, if you have Agitation, maybe you don't even need it unless the basement is super far away. If you're doing a basement build, it's still a great perk though. But it's good. It is really good. It's just the fact is that you know, it depends on what you want to do, what type of build you're doing, and sometimes there's some cases where maybe you can actually make it to the basement or make it to a hook. Throw of the Hunt, which basically makes you cleansing totems a little bit slower. That perk is actually pretty good if you actually are running like a hex build, and I believe Throw of the Hut also gives you a notification when someone is actually cleansing a totem, but I'm actually fact checking it right now to give me like 2 seconds on it. For each dull totem, hex totem remaining, survivor's cleansing and blessing speed is reduced by 12%. Oh, so they don't actually give you a notification. Okay. Okay. Throw of the Hunt is actually good. So it just makes survivors actually cleanse totems. It takes longer. I thought it gave you a notification, but it doesn't. I think it's actually a B tier in my eyes. We're going to put it right there. We're going to actually move that over here. But yeah, Throw of the Hunt is actually a solid B tier. If you're doing like a hex build, absolutely. You can actually run that perk. right? Blindness, sorry. Hitting a survivor with a basic attack or special attack while the hex totem is active applies blindness. The third seal is actually, so the third seal is not a bad perk. It is actually a good perk, but it's actually a solid B though in my eyes. It's a hex totem that isn't really being used a lot. I feel like, you know, survivors are not going to be actually understanding why they're blind. Because of that, I think it's a great perk. But unnerving presence in my eyes is an A tier perk because it actually makes the generators actually be hard to complete. So if you had hypothetically distressing, even though distressing is on the C tier, you can actually increase your terror radius to where this perk is absolutely amazing. Now, honestly, you can say that this perk is B if you really want to do that. But the thing is, though, is that this perk is also good on its own. If you are maybe even hypothetically Nemesis, you can absolutely do this. I think it's a great perk, very good. It makes generators being hard to complete. Very fun in that aspect. There it is. After you fall from a height, your lunge attack distance is increased by 75%. Oh yeah, okay. So this perk right here, I'm not gonna lie, I think it's C tier. I mean, you might not even get any use out of it, even if there is, even if you're on a map that can hypothetically where you can get use out of it. I think it's okay. It's not really that great of a perk. I think it's a solid C tier in my eyes. Probably all the way, maybe, actually no, I think maybe it's actually right here, to be honest with you. And then move Frank's demise down here, and then move knockout. So I think this perk right here is it's okay. It's not that bad of a perk, but it's just that you won't get value out of it though when it comes down to certain maps like the hospital map. You're not going to get any value from it. You're really not going to do that. I think this is actually, I know this one. But the thing is, though, I need to actually look what it's called. Yeah, right here. Friends to the end. So, when you hook a survivor, the obsession becomes exposed for 20 seconds, and their aura is revealed to you. I think this is actually a solid A tier if you really want to do that. So that way you actually have you know where to go, and you can actually be chasing after that exposed survivor, and you can actually down them. But that's up to you, though. I think that is an A tier, though, in my eyes. That's an A tier. When carrying a survivor, you can see the aura of other survivors within 20 meters of your position. I think that's a solid B. So if you actually are carrying a survivor, you can actually partner that up with Thrilling Tremors. And then you can actually look at where all the survivors are at when it comes down to gens. But to be honest with you, even then, I still say Thrilling Tremors is better than this one. Still pretty good. Oh. Unlock potentials on one aura's reading ability. Each time a generator fully repairs, survivors within 16 meters of the incomplete generator will be revealed for 5 seconds. When the last generator is fully repaired, all survivors or auras are revealed for 10 seconds. I think there's better aura reading perks now in this game, so because of that, I think C tier is actually good. There's just better aura reading perks. It's still a good perk, but there's just better perks out there in the game nowadays, to where like this perk is not that great. I'm all ears basically when someone is doing a fast action. You can see their aura. I think once again, like, this is actually a C tier in my eyes. Still a good perk. It's just that it can help you out with mind games very much. So if you actually really want to do some mind games, and they're trying to fool you, you can absolutely run that perk. And then you also have, I think that's Dying Wish, which I think Dying Wish gives you a Dying Light, sorry. Your obsession gains 33% action speed. All survivors who are not obsession get a 3% penalty to repair, healing, and sabotage. I think Dying Light is actually like a solid B tier, to be honest with you. So Dying Light, it is good. It's just a B tier. The obsession gets a buff in healing other survivors and stuff, which I guess is good, but it's a solid B. You know, but I feel like you have to tunnel perhaps all the survivors. Tunnel the obsession, I should say. I feel like you have to tunnel them to actually get some value out of it. But yeah, Basically this perk right here, which is I think I forgot what it's called, maybe unknown or something, or I know what it does, which basically when you kick a generator, your terror radius gets transferred over to the generator, so you can do some mind games where you are pretty much like, oh man, the survivors are probably like saying, oh wow, you know, he's still here, I still, you know, I hear him still, right? Little do they know that you're actually somewhere else, because you actually are whatchamacallit, you're somewhere else on the map, right? Which is unforeseen. This is, I think unforeseen, personally, I think it's like completely underrated. I think it's an S tier, but it's actually a low end S tier in my opinion, because as much as I do like being undetectable, this perk is very easy for you to become undetectable in my eyes, especially if you're playing a killer that can teleport away super fast, and you can actually gain that undetectable, or you could be just running away, and then you can actually loop back or something. I think unforeseen is a great perk though. I think it is good. I think it's an S tier in my eyes. Let's actually see. Alien Instinct. This perk activates when you hook a survivor. You see the aura of the farthest injured survivor for 8 seconds, and that survivor is oblivious for 60 seconds. Alien Instinct is a solid B in my eyes. Alien Instinct is not a bad perk. I think it's actually a solid B. For all injured survivors suffer from the hemorrhage and is also side effect for 30 seconds. This is actually a really good perk too. Once again, B. As you can see, we're gonna get a lot of B perks right now. There's barely any perks that I personally find like really bad, that I find like, oh my god, this perk freaking sucks, man. Oh, reveals dying fire ores when standing with no sir. Okay, so Deerstalker I guess is good if you're slugging them, but I think personally you can also just hear them. In my opinion, Deerstalker, there's Deerstalker right here. In my opinion, I know this is a controversial take, but in my opinion, it is a D tier in my eyes, because you can just like hear them. But I know there's some situations, it's not one of the worst perks though. I know in some situations, maybe you actually have one survivor and he's dead on the ground and you need to go look for them because they might find the hatch. Perhaps so, maybe you get value from that, but maybe you might find the hatch sooner, because like I think 8 times out of 10 you're gonna find that I think 8 times out of 10 I think you're gonna find the hatch before the survivor finds the hatch. When a survivor performs a fast vault within 12 meters of you, this perk activates. The next time you vault a window, your vaulting speed is increased by 40%. The perk deactivates. I think this perk is actually, to be honest with you, this perk is actually an A tier. It's an A tier because personally, like windows are annoying. Like it goes by the same thing with Bamboozle. To be honest with you, it's like on the same par, except for I think Bamboozle is just a little bit better. Is the fact that like, I personally think that if you're in a spot in an area where people are like looping you, like the T&L or the shack, then this perk right here is going to counter that, where they are forced to move somewhere else or they're going to get a hit. If you're going to get a hit off of it, it's probably because of this perk. When a survivor within your terror radius looks at you, they scream and you see their aura for 2 seconds. This perk has a 60-second cooldown. I think the fact that the cooldown is really annoying is what makes this perk not so good in my eyes, and because of that, I think we're actually going to put it actually in C tier. It's because of the simple fact, like, you're actually not really, like, it's cool to see their aura for 2 seconds, and you can partner that up with Lethal Pursuer, but the cooldown is annoying, though. It's just weird that you can see their cooldown, though. At the start of trial, yep, so when a survivor is unhooked from a scourge hook, they suffer from the hemorrhage and mangle status effect for 90 seconds. The first time the survivor is healed, they suffer a 16% speed penalty to healing and repairing actions until injured again. This perk is actually really good. I'm actually going to put this in A tier as long with the scourge hook. I think the fact is too that they become injured, and the fact that they get a 16% minus when they actually get a 16% penalty. I should say. So if they get a 16% penalty with repairing and healing and all that stuff, I think that actually puts a lot of pressure on them, and that's more time that they have to spend on the generator. Bloodhound is a C tier. I don't think I don't really have a hard time with finding stretch march, and I don't think I have a hard time following them. Pretty much just, you know, if you're looking at them and you're seeing them, cool. I think that's all I gotta say about that. Call of Brine. After damaging a generator, this perk becomes active for 70 seconds. The generator regresses at 150% of the normal regression speed, and you can see its aura in yellow. This perk is actually really good. I actually do recommend that perk. It's pretty nice. Let's actually talk about this perk because I just don't know the name of it. But like I know it's really good. So basically, like if you actually want to increase your lunges, that perk is, oh there he is, Coupe de Grace. So each time a generator is completed, you get a token with a maximum of 5 tokens, and you consume 1 token and you increase your lunge attack by 80%. I think this perk is absolutely amazing when I was using it in custom matches. I think I would personally say put it in A tier because you are going to be using those lunges attacks like often, especially if you were using it on Demigorgon, or you can be using it on Wesker. So those are great perks. 3 great killers to use those perks on. Survivors who take a protection hit are inflicted with the broken status effect for 80 seconds. I think personally it depends on this one, because if you're really playing hardcore with this perk would actually be beneficial. I honestly, if you're playing really hardcore, I think it's A tier, to be honest with you, right? If you're in those high ranks, but I'm actually going to put it in B tier. I've seen a lot of cases where survivors are doing, and they're actually protecting the other survivors awfully a lot, especially towards the end game when people really want to protect those survivors. But you know, that's the end game though, right? If we're talking about in the early or to mid game, yeah, I would say in mid game they're actually doing that. In early game they're really not. After you break 2 pallets, the next time you're stunned by a pallet, the NT will instantly break the pallet. So if you actually are getting stunned awfully a lot like me, because everyone likes hitting me for no reason, then this perk was actually be pretty good. I think it's a solid A tier. Solid A. Your ties to the other every time a generator is completed, all windows and vaults locations are blocked for all survivors for the next 3 seconds. I think personally this perk is okay. I just think it's in B tier. I think it's very mid compared to you using Bamboozle or using actually like a Wesker's thing. It's actually still good. I just think it's mid. Increase the duration you're blinded by any means, and the duration of the power stones by 25%, but increases regular vault speed by 25%. Wait, so increase the duration you are blinded by any means, and the duration of power stones by 25%. I think so. Someone did talk to me in chat about that. I think this perk right here is okay. The Lynch, I think it's actually a solid B once again. Can actually use it, probably combine it with some other perks. I think maybe it might be yeah, it's basically a 25% vault speed. So I think maybe it's probably B, I would say. Obsessed with one survivor. When the obsession loses a health state, your terror radius transfers to the obsession for 45 seconds, and its radius is set to 40 meters. You're granted the undetectable status effect for the duration. As far as within the transfer terrorist is also considered to be inside the terrorist for other purposes. Dark Devotion, I think, is honestly an A tier, especially if you can actually run some perks with it that actually can increase, not necessarily increase, but make it difficult. I think that's a great perk, personally. Great perk in my eyes. When you search a locker, the auras of all survivors within 8 meters of any lockers are revealed to you for 8 seconds. Darkness Revealed, I mean, if you constantly want to use that perk to change to use lockers, fine. I'm actually going to put it in C tier though. When you hook a survivor, Dead Man Switch activates. The first survivor that stops repairing a generator causes the entity to block it for 50 seconds. I think Dead Man Switch is actually S tier, to be honest with you. I think Dead Man Switch is pretty good. I'm actually going to put it over here. Dead Man Switch is actually a really helpful and very handy perk. I think it's a great perk personally. Blocking generators is just really helpful, especially if that's the name of the game. It's to protect the generators, and the fact that you're blocking them and it highlights in white aura, I think it's really good. When a survivor heals another survivor, the healer survivor screams and activates Deathbound. While they are at least 4 meters apart, the healer survivor sees the aura of the survivor they healed and suffers from the oblivious status effect. Deathbound lasts until the healer loses a health state. I think like you're forcing them pretty much to be together in a way, right? But I still think this perk is actually not that great. I'm going to put it in a solid B. Not solid B, but probably at the end of B, I should say. Dominance. The first time each totem and each chest is interacted with by a survivor, that totem or chest is blocked by the entity for 16 seconds. Dominance, I think, is actually a pretty bad perk, to be honest with you. It's not that great perk. I think to really take it up with you on a perk slot, it's not that great. I'm actually going to put it in D tier. It is not that great as a perk. I mean, I guess if you really, really want to protect your hexes, but the Hex Undying is actually just simply better, and I actually ranked that at A tier. Right, didn't I? Yeah, it's right there. But the everything turns to dust. 3 seconds after injuring a survivor by any means, Desolation activates for 20 seconds. While Desolation is active, if a survivor fast falls over a pallet inside of your terror radius, the entity will break the pallets at the end of the vault, and Desolation deactivates. I think it's a great perk if you actually, because you're using their resources. But I'm actually going to put it on B, at the end of B, because their pallets is probably their strongest resource, and you want to get rid of those pallets. If they don't have any pallets on the map, then there you go. Enduring. So Enduring's pretty good. Solid B. Right there in the middle. It basically, what happens is that it makes it where you actually get a 50% lower stun rate. So I think that's good. If you're getting stunned awfully a lot, go for it, I mean, it's great. That's all you got to say. It's a good perk. Not bad at all. Game of Foot. While you're chasing the obsession, this perk activates. Damaging a generator and breaking walls or pallets gives you a 7% haste status for 10 seconds. Whenever you hit the survivor with the total most time and chase with the basic attack, they become the obsession. I think that perk is actually it's not that bad. Game of Foot. It's not a bad perk. I mean, if you actually are running like a complete haste build, absolutely go for it. I think, but me personally, I'm actually gonna probably rank it perhaps maybe on a B tier. I think it's still good. I think it actually goes right neck and neck with batteries included. Eruption. After kicking a generator, its aura is highlighted in yellow. Whenever a survivor enters the dying state, every affected generator explodes, losing 10% worth of progression, and starts to regress. Any survivor repairing a generator with an explosive will scream and reveal the aura for 12 seconds. Eruption is not bad. Once again, it's going to be a B1. B perk. Not that bad. Not that great. It's something that I'm going to write home about. But yeah, this actually do fire up. Each time the survivors complete repairs on a generator, fire up grows in power. For each generator completed, gain a 6% stackable buff that grants a speed bonus for picking up, dropping, vaulting, damaged generators, and breaking pallets and breakable walls for a remainder of the trial. You can actually run this perk with batteries up. I think I'm actually going to do that right here, if you actually want to actually get to move things a little bit faster. Great perk, but not the best perk in my eyes. When a survivor is put into the dying state by any means, all other survivors standing within 16-meter range around them suffers from the hinder status effect for 10 seconds, reducing their movement speed by 20%. This perk goes on cooldown for 30 seconds. I think I remember this and I didn't really like it, so I'm actually going to put it in C. Feel free to leave me down in the comments what you think about that. Forever Anti-Wine. When a survivor takes damage, gain 1 token up to 8. For each token you pick up, drop and hook survivors 4% faster. I think personally this is not that great. I mean, you can't really... I'm going to put it probably in C because like... I mean, you're already hooking survivors fast enough, and I don't feel like you need to actually hook them even faster. I don't think you really need to actually do that any faster than it already is, in my opinion. But you know, feel free to actually leave a comment down below what you think about that. Gearhead. After a survivor loses a health state by any means, Gearhead activates for 3 seconds. While Gearhead is active, every time a survivor performs a good skill check while repairing, their aura is revealed to you for 8 seconds. I think Gearhead is a solid A tier personally. It's solid A. I mean, it's a good aura reading perk in my eyes. I'm gonna put it right here, right in the down the middle of A. I think it's actually a really, really great perk when it comes down to it, because if someone's doing a great skill check, you can actually get that perk and actually get value from it, and you can actually find out where the survivors are located at. Genetic limits. Around you, the limits of human life becomes readily apparent. Anytime a survivor loses a health step, they suffer from the exhausted status effect for 8 seconds. Once again, very good perk, but it's just, honestly, not gonna lie, it's a solid B. Got another B one right there. Another B one. Haywire. As a gate switch with at least 80% progress regress rate, I think this perk is actually not that great. Okay, so this perk right here, Haywire, is honestly not that good compared. As you can see, we have a lot of perks up there on the tippy top if you actually are really talking about using it for exit gates. I think this is a D tier. I don't see a reason why to use it. Feel free to leave a comment down below if you actually can find use out of it. It's just that there's so many perks. There's a big sort of perks right now in the B tier that actually really hold down the exit gates. I don't think this one right here, it's not that good in my eyes. It's not that. I mean, maybe we can try it maybe, you know, a little bit later, but it's just not that great in my eyes. It's not. Help wanted. When you damage a generator, it becomes compromised. Only one generator can become compromised at a time. When the compromised generator is completed, your successful basic attack cooldown is 25% faster. I think personally this is actually a C tier as well. This perk is good. It's just that we already have like the save the best for last, or if you don't want to use save best for last, you can also use this perk to get it 30%. I just don't think this is actually enough. I think this is okay. It's decent, but it's not the bad. It's not the worst. I think it's a C tier. It's decent, but not the worst. Hex crowd control. When a survivor performs a rush vault, the vault becomes blocked by the entity. This applies for up to 5 vaults. Okay, so this is actually not that bad of a perk, and to be honest with you, like if I was going to, I mean, I might actually rate it at an S, but I'm actually going to rank it at A tier. I think it's a great perk. It really is, because you're blocking those windows and you don't really need to use Bamboozle. But I think Bamboozle is just a little bit better. It's just a tiny bit better than this one, but I think it's a great perk though. And you know what? It actually does fit the name, being the name crowd control, right? Hex, face the darkness. Injuring a survivor by any means, light a dull totem, activating the hex. While the hex is active, all other survivors outside of your terror radius will scream every 25 seconds, revealing their possession and auras for 2 seconds. When the survivor enters a dying state or becomes healthy, the hex one becomes dull again, and this perk deactivates. I think this is a B tier. I mean, I guess you can actually run this with like maybe a stealth killer or something, but I think it's B. I think I'm actually going to put it at the low end of B. I feel like you might not get that much use out of it, but you know, feel free to comment down on that. I honestly don't even think that should be a hex perk, to be honest with you, but that's just my opinion. After you damage survivors 8 times with the basic attacks, a dull totem becomes the hex totem, cursing all survivors. When you damage a survivor with a basic attack, they gain 5% hinder for 15 seconds. This perk is okay, but like I said though, I think it's a solid B. There's just so many perks that are just better than that one. But I mean, it does come with a hinder status effect, and I guess a hinder status effect isn't so bad. Pentimento. While a totem is rekindled, survivors heal and repair 20% slower, 3% for each additional rekindled totem. If all 5 totems are rekindled simultaneously, all totems are permanently blocked by the entity. Survivors cursed by this perk see the auras of rekindled totems within 16 meters. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think this is actually a C tier. I don't even think this is a great hex perk. I think it's not that good in my eyes. But it's actually retribution. Any survivor interacting with adult totem or hex totem will suffer from oblivious status effect for 60 seconds. If any hex totem is removed, including this one, the auras of all survivors are revealed for 20 seconds. Retribution is okay. Like I said, if you're doing a hex build and they're cleansing it, you can actually see all the survivors. Retribution, you know, it's not a bad perk. Not necessarily bad, but not necessarily good too. Anytime you're stunned or blinded by any survivors, there's no hex if there's no hex totem associated with the hex 2 can play, adult totem becomes a hex totem. Survivors who stun or blind, you're blinded for 1.5 seconds. I think 2 can play. I think that's honestly a D tier perk. I think the fact that you know, being blinded or even doing the reverse, I don't think it's that great, to be honest with you. I think it's a D tier. Let me check it out one more time though. So survivors who stun or blind you are blinded for 1.5 seconds. This does not affect. Maybe I'm being too harsh on it. Maybe I actually should be switching it over to a C tier. Being maybe a little bit too harsh on it. But I think the perk is not that great personally. It's not as like amazing. It's like, whoa, this perk is so good. There's a lot of hex perks actually. The obsession. So after one generator has been repaired, a random dull totem becomes a hex. After one generator has been repaired, a random dull totem becomes a hex totem and curses the obsession. The obsession suffers a 33% repair speed penalty. They also see the hex totem's aura when within 12 meters. This effect persists until the hex totem is cleansed. The fact that it only affects only one survivor, I think that's really annoying. So I'm actually going to put it in C. I wish it affected everybody. If it affects everyone, that'd be good. But unfortunately, it only affects one. Survivors reveal their location when they interact with a chest or when they pick up an item within 64 meters of your location. The trial begins up with the 2 additional chests in the environment. Nobody really uses that, so I'm actually going to do C. Now, it's a good perk if survivors were going to be going to chests and looting from the chest, but no survivors are looting from the chest, so it kind of makes the perk kind of obsolete. There's only very few times where survivors are actually going to be looting from the chest. Only a very few times. I honestly, I can only count probably in one hand how many times they do that, right? Hubris, when you are stunned by a survivor, that survivor suffers from the exposed status effect for 30 seconds. Hubris has a cooldown of 20 seconds. I think this perk is actually not so bad. I'm actually going to put it in A. It's not a bad perk, especially if you're constantly getting stunned. You can definitely work a build with that, especially if you're getting stunned and then you get that stun out quicker, and then you can break that pallet with brutal strength and chase them. You could probably end the chase very quickly. I think the perk is not necessarily super bad. I just think the perk is, it's okay. It's not bad though. It's not bad. Human greed. You see the auras of unopened chests and survivors' auras are revealed for 5 seconds when they enter an 8-meter range. So, hold on, one more time. You also gain the ability to get chests to close them. This ability this one, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's gonna be D tier. It's going to be D tier because the same thing like with that. Nobody really uses like chests. Nobody really uses that, which is so sad because there's such great perks. There's so many perks for survivors to do, and if they're not actually running those type of perks, I think maybe later down the line that might be the meta, but as of right now, it's a really bad perk and you probably shouldn't be running it because they barely actually use and interact with chests. But you know, it's unfortunate, but it's what it is, right? Hysteria. Whenever a healthy survivor becomes injured by any means, all injured survivors suffer from the oblivious status effect for 40 seconds, right? Hysteria is okay. I think B tier is has works for it, right? Man. The cries of unfaithful make your heart leap. Any survivors that were within your terror radius while another survivor is put into a dying state will scream and reveal the location to you for 6 seconds. This is a B tier. I mean, you got survivors that might be chasing after you while you're chasing a survivor and you down them, and maybe you can easily turn around and probably actually get them. Maybe someone might be going for a flashlight save as well. You open lockers 50% faster, and survivors who exit out lockers suffer from the exposed status effect for 30 seconds and scream, revealing the location for 4 seconds. When you're in the higher ranks, this is actually not that great of a perk because the people barely go into lockers, especially if you're injured. If you're injured, the killer can't actually heal you, hear you. So that's why it's going to be put into the C tier. Languid touch. When a survivor within 36 meters of you scares a crow, they suffer from the exhausted status effect for 10 seconds. Personally, if you you're not really going to be using I think that's a B. It's probably a B, and the only reason why I think it's a B is because like there's always going to be survivors scaring the crows. They don't really pay attention to crows, and I don't pay attention to crows either. So I think because of that, you can most definitely use that and as your advantage to really get the survivors. Leverage. When a survivor performs the unhook action, their healing speed is reduced by 50% for 30 seconds. B tier. B tier once again. Actually, not even B tier. I'm going to be honest with you. Not even B tier. I think it might be C tier. But I think it's going to be over here because there are some perks over here that can probably be better if you're in the terror radius, right? But it's still a good perk. It's still solid, and I could see a reason for it to be a B. But it's not there yet. Mad Grit. While carrying a survivor, you suffer no cooldown for missed basic attacks, and successfully hitting another survivor with a basic attack will pause the carry survivor's wiggle timer for 4 seconds. Mad Grit is also a C tier. It is, I think, is a little bit underrated when they have so many survivors that are swarming you and trying to get you. It's a little bit underrated, but I think it's good though. When a generator reaches 90% progress, survivors working on the generator will be faced with the continuous skill checks. If they miss or stop repairing, the generator is blocked by the entity for 20 seconds. So Merciless Storm is honestly a great perk, and I think it's a solid A tier as well. Because it's so good, because I remember doing that when I'm doing the generators, and it actually becomes really hard because now it's flickering everywhere. And if I miss it, I also... I would hate for it to be blocked as well. I think it's a great perk though. I think it's great. Mindbreaker. While repairing generators, survivors are afflicted by the blindness and exhausted status effect. After exiting exhausted status effect, timers are paused while the survivors are repairing a generator. After ending the repair action, the survivor is afflicted by the blindness and exhausted status effect for 5 seconds. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's gonna be a C. Gonna be a C tier right there. C. That's just my eyes though on that. Now we're gonna be moving over to the Oni Nemesis. A survivor who blinds you or stuns you or using a pallet or locker becomes your obsession. Anytime a new survivor becomes the obsession, they are inflicted by the oblivious status effect. Nemesis can actually totally work out with other perks, so I'm actually gonna put it with B. No quarter. When a survivor reaches 75% healing progress while self-healing, they are faced with the continuous skill checks. If one of these skill checks is missed or the heal is interrupted, the survivor suffers from the broken status effect. I think personally, once again, it's okay. It's not bad. I think there's a lot of healing perks that you can possibly do, but I'm actually going to put it at C. It's good. It's not bad. I know some people might rank it a little bit higher than me. I think it's okay. When you hook a survivor for the first time, gain 1 token up to 4. When all generators are completed, for each token, all windows and upright pallets are blocked by 16 seconds. It's a B. Blocking pallets, blocking stuff. But, it's not as good as Blood Favor. But, I mean, it's good, though, for blocking stuff. Oppression. When you damage a generator, up to 3 other random generators are also begin regressing. If the affected generator are being repaired, any survivor repairing them receives a difficult skill check. Oppression has a cooldown for 40 seconds. This is really good. A good gen build, gen perk, I should say, if you really want to do that. Overcharge. You overcharge a generator by performing the damage generator action. The next survivor interacting with that generator is faced with a difficult skill check. Failing the skill checks results in an additional 4% loss in progress. I think overcharge is really, really good. I think it's actually an A tier. as well. It is a great perk in my opinion. Predator. When a survivor escapes or a chase, reveal their aura for 4 seconds. This perk has a 40-second cooldown. I guess so. You can actually do that. You can actually use that and play with your food if you want. Very perk right there. You become obsessed with one survivor. Each time a generator is completed, your obsession sees your aura for 3 seconds. Each time a generator is completed, all survivors' locations are revealed to you for 3 seconds. Once the exit gates are powered, the obsessions has the exposed status effect, and you can kill them. I think personally that is an okay perk. I'm actually going to put it in B as well. There's a lot of B perks, right here. A lot of B. I know some people might say there's some A's in here, but I think there's a lot of B's in here. I think and generally all the killer perks are kind of solid. At the start of the trial, 4 random hooks are changed into scourge hooks. You see their auras in white. When a survivor is unhooked from a scourge hook, all other survivors have their auras revealed for 8 seconds. This perk is actually not that great. I think personally it should be a C. There's just other aura reading perks, and I guess you could actually hypothetically get kind of combine it with it all to where you can actually have better perks, like a better build with it. At the start of the trial, 4 random hooks are changed. Okay, got it. Gain a notification when a survivor begins sabotaging a hook. While carrying a survivor, see the aura of any survivors within 16 meters of a scourge hook. I think it's probably a C, to be honest with you. Not that great. Scourge hook jagged compass. At the start of the trial, up to 4 random hooks are changed into scourge hooks. You see the auras in white. When a survivor is unhooked from a hook, it becomes a scourge hook. When you hook a survivor on a scourge hook, the auras of the generator with the most progression is revealed in yellow for 10 seconds. Not a bad perk. Not a bad. I think it's really a game changer. I'm actually going to put that in B. I think it's a game changer when it comes down to it. At the start of the trial, 4 random hooks are changed into scourge hooks. You see their auras in white. Scourge hooks gains 20% faster entity progression if the killer is not within the 24 meters. Basement hooks count as scourge hooks. This is actually really good if you really are doing a scourge hook build. You can most definitely do that, but I'm actually going to put it in a B tier right now. Stop messaging me. When a survivor performs a healing action within your terror radius, that survivor suffers from blindness and exhausted. These effects linger for 10 seconds after a healing action interrupts by any means. Septic touch, once again, it's going to be B. I think I remember this one. This one's probably really good. When you destroy a boon totem this way. So Shatter Hope. This one is really not that great. And I think this perk is really terrible because it's super situational. So because of that, I'm actually going to put it in D tier because it relies on survivors having a boon build. And if they're not having a boon build, and not right now, we're in a stage right now where killers are not really necessarily looking for totems. Now, I know you should keep an eye on it. You should, but you don't know it, though. You don't know what's going to happen with it. So I think we're going to be heading to another new meta where we're actually survivors are going to be heading to actually using more boon totems in the future. But as of right now, that being said, I think it's not that good right now. It's a D tier for me as of right now with this ranking. But it needs to be actually a little bit better. I think they need to add more things to it. 100% of the time, crawling crows give you a visual cue when you're within a 36-meter range. Spies from the Shadow has a cooldown of 5 seconds. I think Spies from the Shadows is not that great of a perk either. I'm actually going to put it in D tier. I don't think it's that great. Maybe it could be right here, but I don't think that perk is good either. I don't think so. Star Trek. While carrying a survivor, any other... Oh, okay. So, yeah. So, basically, when you pick a survivor up, and everyone becomes exposed. So, it actually does help out. Maybe towards the end game if that's what you really want to do. Because maybe they're not expecting NOED, but they're expecting maybe... they won't be expecting that, though. Which I think it is a great perk. I think Star Trek is absolutely amazing. I think it's just super underrated personally. Breathing of survivors in pain is 50% louder, and regular breathing is 25% louder. I think I mean, it's definitely C. It's definitely C right there. I mean, you could just turn up your game. Not gonna lie. I feel like they're already breathing pretty heavily. Surveillance. Okay, so surveillance is really good. So, unlike a potential in one's aura reading ability, any regression in a generator will be highlighted by a white aura. If the regression is interrupted on a generator, it will be highlighted by a yellow aura for 16 seconds. Noises created by a generator pairs are audible at an additional 8 meters. Surveillance, I think it is a B tier as well. I think that is a great perk for you to actually know where survivors are located at. When exit gates are powered, this perk activates. While Terminus is active, injured, down, and hooked survivors are all inflicted with the broken status effect until exit gates are open. When exit gates are open, survivors will stay broken for an additional 45 seconds. I don't like how the exit gates have to be open, but there's so many perks that can actually help out this perk. I think because of that, we're going to actually put it on C tier. There's a lot of perks that perhaps that can help it out. Territorial Imperative unlocks a potential in one's aura reading ability. Survivors' auras are revealed to you for 6 seconds when they enter the basement, and you are more than 24 meters away from the basement entrance. I think personally they're not really going to be using this. People barely go to the basement anyways, and I don't think you should be going to the basement. I mean, there's a lot of games that they don't. I know there's some games that they do, maybe to get an item. I know I go down to the basement to actually get an item, but the perk itself, though, is just not that great, and I don't find it very useful. Thanatophiopia. For each injured, dying, or hooked survivor, all survivors receive a penalty of 2% to repair, sabotage, and total cleansing speeds. If there are 4 injured, dying, or hooked survivors, there is an additional 12% penalty to repair, sabotage, and total cleansing speed. Perk right here, I'm going to say this right now, I think it's an A tier. I think it helps you out. I think it's incredibly underrated. I know some people might put it in B. I think it's actually a little bit better. I think it might be an A. But yeah. Thwack. When breaking a pallet or breakable wall, consume a token. Survivors within 36 meters scream and their auras revealed for 6 seconds. When hooking a survivor, regain 1 token. It's okay. Not one of the best. I'm going to put it in lower B. Not the best, but it's okay. After damaging a generator, you become undetectable until the generator stops regressing. During this time, the generator yellow aura is revealed to survivors. This effect can only trigger once every 30 seconds. I think this perk is a B tier, maybe a low end B tier. I was originally thinking about putting it in A, but thank you for me reading it all, because it actually makes the generator yellow for the survivor, so people know that was your last known location. And I think because of that, it's just kind of silly to me. You might as well use another perk that actually, when you hit a generator, and you just become like there, you know, like the other one, which is Unforeseen. Unforeseen is just better than Trail of Torment. They're basically essentially kind of the same perk, but Unforeseen is better. When you open a locker, all survivors within 32 meters of the locker scream and reveal their position. They then gain blindness for 30 seconds. This perk goes on cooldown for 60 seconds. Ultimate Weapon is a B tier in my eyes. You're barely going in to actually go into looking at lockers. I think they're okay, but they're not that great. Unbound. This perk activates for 30 seconds after survivor becomes injured by any means. After vaulting a window, you gain 7% haste for 10 seconds. I'll say B, maybe. I mean, low end B. I mean, Bamboozle once again, or even a Masterminds perk. If you are worried about the haste, I know this one gives you haste, but maybe just actually get faster over a window. I think this might be a little bit better than actually climbing over the window and then getting the haste. Undone. When survivors misses a healing or repair skill check, gain 3 tokens on a a generator. If you have any tokens, consume all of them for each token. Oh, yeah. I don't really like this one. I think this is personally a D tier. I don't really like it. I'm not D tier. Sorry, C tier. I don't really like it. I feel like there's so many better perks out there now that perk is actually not that great. Undone, I mean, it's okay, I guess, but it just seems like there's so many perks out there. I don't like once again, the cooldown, it's just not, you're not there, buddy. You're not there for 60 seconds. You're not there, man. No, honestly, to be honest with you, I would put it in the last place for even the worst. I just don't like that perk. Weave Attunement. When an item becomes depleted for the first time, it is dropped. You see the auras of dropped items. Survivors within 12 meters of dropped items have their auras revealed to you. Affected survivors see the items of auras. When a survivor picks up a survivor item, they suffer from the oblivious status effect for 30 seconds. It's going to be a B. I'm going to be honest. B tier. And now for the final perk, which is Xanish Tactics. Reveal the order of pallets and vaults within 32 meters. Survivors should drop pallets revealed to you for 6 seconds. Very simplistic perk. Very nice perk to end off with. B tier. I think personally, I don't know if you guys disagree or you agree with it. I think these perks, like, there's really not that much bad perks when it comes down to Dead by Daylight. I think Dead by Daylight, when talking about the killer side of things, Dead by Daylight's killer perks are very, very balanced and they're very, very good. I think personally, like, you are, I mean, in my eyes, I mean, you're gonna have fun. There's a lot of things that you could do. There's a lot of builds that you can actually make out with it. I don't think there's only very few perks that you guys seen that were like completely just terrible. In my, it's actually like, it's okay. I think it's pretty good. Now, obviously, my opinion matters the most because I am the greatest gamer of all time. I think it's a great game when it comes out to the killer side. But here's the thing, though. I think there's more meta perks when it comes out to Survivor, especially if you're combining all of them. But killers, I just have more. I just recognize killers a little bit more. But you know, there we go.
Everybody put their hands up, cause we money making, money making, money making. We slaying all these dragons, no, I'm not imagining. The problems keep on piling, oh my god, this is amazing.